Hey guys, welcome back to Four Towers Films and another weekly recap of The Young and the Restless for this week. Little something a bit different. It's going to be more of a highlight show of what happened this week, simply because I haven't had the chance to watch our Friday show, which will be your Monday show. So, again, we are a day ahead here in Canada, so our episodes will be one day ahead for you. So, bear that in mind while you're watching. But the week was it was good, but it was kind of slow to me. Maybe you guys have a different take on that, but some things moved some stories along a little bit. Like we know that Phyllis was ousted from Jabot, and so she's kind of doing a little bit of damage control and trying to get herself back in the game. So, she's kind of worked the angle. She's made a deal with Lauren to try to help her get Fenmores out from under Jabot, and has already talked to Jack about that. But Jack has turned her down. So she's still trying to think of another way to manipulate the situation. And she's been trying to get assets or money, because Lauren said that if she can come up with part of the money that Jack wants to pay for her area of Fenmore's, then she would work with her. So Phyllis is still kind of in the process of doing that. So during this, she had known about Summer's surgery. They had filled her in. And so she still thinks that it's a bit sketchy that Kyle and Lola are still kind of a thing. They haven't gotten over each other. And she still believes that he really only married her to get Kyle, so that Kyle would kind of convince Summer to be Lola's donor. So she comes and she asks Lola to meet her at Crimson Lights, and says to her, she's very happy that she's well and is looking good and on the mend. And Lola says, thank you. And, really it's no small part to what your daughter did. And Summer, she's grateful to her. And Phyllis says, that Summer didn't tell her about surgery, and she found out after the fact. Basically, she legitimately thought they'd gone on a honeymoon. And she basically is alluding kind of to the fact that she knows that Kyle isn't really into Summer as much as he is into Lola. And Lola's like, she legitimately doesn't know. She thinks that Kyle does have a connection with Summer, and she tells Phyllis that. And Phyllis basically had got her there under the ruse that she wants to have this party for herself because she's been ousted from Jabot. So she kind of wants to celebrate and start a kind of new chapter for herself. But Lola's not really buying it. But she does say to her, she can't. Like, she wants her to cater the party. And Lola's like, she can't because of the restaurant. She's just too busy. Not that she doesn't want to do it. She's just too busy. And then she basically says, you're worried about Kyle and me, but you don't have to be, because, nothing's going on. Everything's fine, kind of thing. We're just friends. He's moved on. He has a connection with Summer. So the whole conversation basically is Phyllis saying that she doesn't really believe that. She thinks that Kyle is still into Lola. And Summer kind of knows that, and it's better for her, really, for her to know that now, rather than later on down the road and have her heart broken. So, in a way, she's kind of dropping like these little breadcrumbs to Lola, more or less, fight for what you want, because I know you love Kyle, kind of thing. And if Phyllis, if you watch this any length of time, that she's doing this for a reason. She's kind of trying to set her up. Like, she comes across as your friend, but she really means something completely different. So Lola thinks about it, and she goes home, and Nate is there, and doctor on call checks her out, and she's doing okay, and he tells her again, don't push yourself, all that kind of stuff, and she's just saying she's fine, and she won't push herself too much. But, getting ready for the restaurant and all that kind of thing, it's kind of stressful. So it comes down to she's thinking about what Phyllis had said and what Kyle had said before and everything. So she wants to go and kind of talk and clear the air with Kyle. And so they run into each other at Crimson Lights later on. Like, this is later on. And they talk, and Lola says to him, I want to get together and maybe have dinner kind of thing and talk about things. But this is basically after Phyllis has talked with Summer, and because Jack had offered Summer a job after the whole brainstorming session they had with helping with the ideas of the influencers and the vloggers and things like that for Jabot. And Summer hasn't actually given him an answer yet. And so she tells Phyllis that Jack has offered her this job. And Phyllis says, that's good. I know that he means well, and you were happy at Jabot and you work well with Kyle, but it's actually good to have separate, really lives kind of thing. Like, even if you're married, not to constantly be together and have separate interests, have separate work, that kind of thing. And really think about things, because her grandfather has given her a lot of responsibility at Newman. So does she really want to give that up to go back to Jabot just because Kyle works there? But Summer's kind of like, yeah, but we're in the honeymoon phase. And Phyllis can tell Summer is insecure and she wants to stay there because she kind of wants to keep an eye on Kyle, really. And that's exactly really what it is. But and Phyllis is really kind of saying to her that you should be able to trust your husband, and you're not going to have a really good relationship if you can't trust him, if you can't have like a separate work or separate interest or do different things. What kind of relationship can you really have? Really, it can't be that strong. So Phyllis says she wants to get away, and because she herself, because of what happened with the breakup with Nick and being ousted for Jabot, she just really needs to relax and get away for herself. So she's booked time for her and Summer to go to a spa. And at first, Summer's kind of like hemming and hawing and doesn't want to go. But Phyllis is able to convince her to go. And she tells Kyle that's really only for like overnight or a couple of days, something like that. Just to relax. And Kyle thinks it's a good idea because she does need to relax. She's still recuperating from the surgery. It's a good thing for her. So they go off. So when he meets Lola later on at Crimson Lights, he agrees to have dinner because it's really more about they want to talk and kind of clear the air about what had happened up to that point, because they really haven't had the chance to do that. So they get together at the athletic club, looking really nice, and they have a nice dinner, and they really lay everything out on the line, out on the table. And Lola tells him exactly why she kept pushing him away. And it's really because of seeing what happened with her parents' this marriage, and then also what happened with Ray and Mia, and really all the kind of relationships she's seen and like the role models she's had haven't been really solid in the terms of having good relationships. So she didn't want to sleep with Kyle and then just kind of have that's really all it is, because like what happened with Mia, like she did that to Arturo and to Ray and all that kind of thing. And then apparently, like, we haven't gotten a lot of information on what their parents were like, but it sounds like the father and the mother didn't have a great relationship, and it sounds like the dad wasn't there that much. So, and it could potentially be maybe he did cheat on the mom, that sort of thing. And so that's kind of influenced a lot of what Lola has thought about in her relationships. And that's why she's kind of kept Kyle at a distance. And Kyle really finally understands. And he says that, and they like lay everything on the table. And Kyle again says to her that he's not in love with Lola or in love with Summer. He's always been in love with Lola. Yes, he has a connection with Summer. And he's always been honest about that. To both Lola and Summer, but that he's not in love with her, and that really he thought that was the only way she would give Lola a piece of her liver is if he married her, and to kind of reassure her that she wouldn't be going through this alone, kind of thing. So they really laid everything out and admitted that they still love each other. And Lola says to Kyle that she wants to be able to see where potentially this relationship could go. And he's like, what do you mean by that? And even though she's kind of just laid out all the reasons they can't be together, the fact that he still has a connection with Summer, he still cares about her, the fact that he's married, all that sort of thing, and that they do come from two different worlds, and they have a lot to kind of compromise with each other in that respect, that she still wants to see where this could go. So she says maybe we should get a room, and she already booked it, I guess. So he agrees. During this whole conversation, Phyllis, before they had left, called somebody on the phone and basically told them to let her know every move Kyle and Lola made. So you find out that she made this call to a private investigator. So this private investigator is shadowing them. They're like, it's kind of obvious what he's doing. Like, he's on like one of the tables over here, like they're near where the window thing is. And he's kind of like where everybody else sits, usually on the other side of the fireplace. And he's got his paper up, and he's got this camera, this like telephoto lens on it, hardly a GoPro here. And he's taking a picture. He's taking a picture like they don't notice it at all. Guess they're too wrapped up in each other. I mean, it's pretty obvious. He's got this camera, and he's taking pictures of them. So they get up and leave, and Phyllis called him and says, do you have kind of what I'm looking for? And he says, yep, I got it. They're here. She comes in to the athletic club, and, you know, he gives her the pictures and says they just went upstairs. When they go upstairs, they go into the room. You know, they're kind of nervous and all that stuff. So they start kissing, and it looks they're about to make love. And Kyle's phone rings. And it's Summer. Summer couldn't go away with Phyllis to the spa because she's saying to her mom they'd come back to the Abbott house during this whole like when Lola and Kyle are at dinner. They'd come back to the Abbott house, and Summer's like, we're still in the honeymoon phase, and I can't leave Kyle right now, and all this kind of thing is not right. And Phyllis is like, oh, come on, you don't think Kyle would understand. He's told you it's perfectly fine if you went away for a couple of days. But, oh no, she's adamant. She didn't want to go. So that's why Phyllis went and knew that they were together, Lola and Kyle. So Summer had called him, and of course Kyle doesn't answer the phone. But of course it's on his mind. And so he's like, I can't do this. During this whole time, when Summer had come back, she's like walking around the house. Jack said he'd gone out. She goes to Jabot because he had just told Jack that he had something important to do. He didn't say where he was going. So Jack didn't actually know. So she went to Jabot and talked to the assistant. But he said he hadn't seen him. Then she went to Crimson Lights. He wasn't there. She rang Lola's or Ray's doorbell and kind of practiced what she'd say to him or to her. Of course, nobody was home. So she's like going all over the place looking for him, and she can't find him. She's texting him and calling him. So when Kyle finally got the message, it kind of not like he just kind of felt bad in a sense about it because he does kind of care about Summer, and so they stop and they talk about it, and he tells Lola that he thinks she would feel bad if they started the relationship like this, just because of what had happened and what they'd already talked about. And she kind of agrees, you know, and she feels bad about that. It was even her idea. So they separate, and Kyle goes home and Summer's there and asks where he had been. And he basically said he went to work for a little bit. And Summer said she was there and he wasn't there. And he goes, oh, but I was only there for a little bit and then I went for a walk. So, and they went up to bed, or to the room anyway. So Lola had gone home and guess was she's making herself a look like a grilled cheese, and she burns it. She's thinking, and Ray comes in, and it's like he says to her, you know, is this a new like recipe? Because I don't think it's gonna work. It's burning. And she tells him, you know, what had happened. That her and Kyle had a conversation, and they pretty much worked things out, and that they almost made love. And she's thinking that, you know, she's a home wrecker because he's gone home to tell Summer that they're still in love and he wants to be with her. And so Ray sits her down and says, you know, no, that's nothing ever made sense about him marrying Summer because he was never in love with Summer. And so it didn't make sense. It like came out of the blue. And so they had, a lot of people already had kind of the notion that it was because of surgery that he saved her life. Like, Summer saved Lola's life. And they have this a whole conversation, like Ray is talking about, in a sense, he kind of always knew, like with Mia and him, and the fact that Mia had slept with Arturo twice, is that he wonders if Mia really loved him or just kind of what she could offer him or what he could offer her. And the fact that Arturo never offered her marriage, never offered like a commitment to her where Ray did. And that's kind of what he wanted. He wanted the family. He wanted a marriage and he wanted to have children. But Mia always loved Arturo. So he kind of thinks that maybe it wasn't really a real marriage with them. And it was kind of better that it's out now and that they ended. And he's basically saying this kind of thing to make Lola feel a little bit better about the whole Summer and Kyle thing. Because in a sense, it's a similar situation that, yes, Kyle cares about Summer, but he's not in love with her. And really, should he stay married to someone that he's not in love with? He should be with somebody that he does love, not just because he feels obligated. So it's a good conversation between them. Kyle is just about to tell Summer. He's talking to her, and she comes out in like this negligee and all this, and they're kissing and everything. And then Phyllis, in the meantime, has come to the house. She had come at the athletic club up to the room, but she decided not to knock on the door. She was going to. She's like a heartbeat away. But she decides against it. Like, she comes up with an idea. She goes to the Abbott house and she asks, is Kyle and Summer there? And they're like, yeah. Jack's like, yeah, they're upstairs. And she's like, if it's actually you I want to talk to. So now we know what her new idea is about how to get Fenmores away from Jabot. And that's basically to use the picture. Shows Jack pictures that the private investigator gave her and says, I'm going to release this to the press if you don't release Fenmores. And plus I want amount of cash wire transfer to my account. And you have until tomorrow to do it. And Jack's more or less saying to her, you know, why would you want your daughter even in a loveless marriage to begin with? Like, I mean, kind of thing. At this point, he doesn't even know what had actually happened because Kyle had told him he had just had something to do. He didn't tell him where he had gone, that he had gone to see Lola. So Phil storms out. And Kyle texts Jack, or Jack texts Kyle to come downstairs. So Kyle comes downstairs, and Jack shows him the text, or the pictures, because Phyllis gave them to him. Kyle says nothing happened. Yes, it could have. He admits that. And they did want to, but they didn't want to do that way. But nothing happened. And Kyle feels bad about it. And he doesn't want to hurt Jabot. And Jack's like, it's not going to, like an affair, or if that's what it was, it's not going to sink a company. It's just, yes, there'll be a bit of bad press or gossip kind of thing, but it's not going to kill Jabot. And it's more important how he feels, like what his relationships, like if he wants to be with Lola, he should be with Lola. But he really should think about that before he tells Summer anything. But Kyle's like, no, I can't just let it go like this. I have to tell Summer. And we need to take the wind out of Phyllis's sails. So Kyle goes back upstairs and tells Summer everything. Actually, Summer figured out. Well, first she said to him, you slept with Lola. And he said no, he didn't. But just did tell her that they had dinner, and they almost did. And Summer says she forgives him because she tells him that I already told you I knew that you still loved Lola. I didn't expect you to get over her this soon. And I told you that. And that's why we are so perfect for each other and that we're compatible. That you're a different person now, or else you would have slept with her. And I'm a different person now. So we get each other, basically. So Kyle's just kind of sitting there listening. He doesn't say much else and doesn't break up with her at this point. So, and then they go to sleep. Prior to all this, Jack had come up with an idea how to rebrand Jabot. And basically what it was is when they were doing the brainstorming session with Summer and Kyle, is expanding the whole fashion line, cosmetics, even makeup, shoes, accessories, the whole works, and making a whole lifestyle kind of brand around Jabot and selling them at Jabotiques and Fenmore's and calling it Jabot Complete. So he comes up, and it's an actually interesting idea. And again, that, bringing in the influencers and bringing in the bloggers, the vloggers, and celebrities, and all the things that Summer and Kyle had come up with before, and kind of incorporating all of that into one. So they're just about to kind of think, yeah, it's great, with the whole meeting with Tracy and Kyle and that. And he gets this news ticker kind of thing little while on his tablet. And it's Ashley's company, My Beauty, doing the exact same thing and announcing it first, called My Beauty Complete. And so I was thinking, what the heck? There's a leak somewhere at Jabot. Like, it's kind of coincidental that she's come up with this whole thing too. So he starts looking for who might have kind of leaked it. He'd gone with Billy at first, and Billy gets upset that, you're blaming me when it wasn't him. Thinks not Kyle, but maybe Summer, but it wasn't, because she's partly one of the ones who came up with the idea. So he's really going around trying to figure out who might have leaked this. And then he realizes the basket. He had the basket in the room with them when they were having this discussion. So he starts going through the basket, and he finds a listening device in the basket. And he realizes Ash has been spying on them, eavesdropping. So he comes up with an idea to kind of get back at Ashley. He puts out the device, and he has Tracy come in. And he says to Tracy, oh, yes, that he's forgiven Ashley. He's decided to merge the two companies, that Ash's idea is the only way to save Jabot and all this stuff. And now Trace is convinced that he actually means what he's saying when he says it. The phone rings, and Jack picks up, and it's Ashley. And she's like, you found the listening device, didn't you? And he's like, you bet. And so she's like, what do you want? kind of thing. And they'll put this kind of back and forth thing to rest if he pays her $5 million of his own money. He goes 2 million. So okay, we'll split the difference at 4 million. So he agrees, and you assume right now that the war is over, but who knows, right? You never know with these two. So because of that, now that Summer knows everything, all that kind of stuff, Jack goes to the athletic club. And Lauren and Michael are there having dinner and just celebrating being together. And Jack fills Lauren in on the whole Jabot complete and tells her why he didn't want Fenmores to leave. And the fact that Fenmore's going to play a huge role. It's not just about bolstering Jabot, it's also about bolstering Fenmores because it's good for both companies. So Lauren, after hearing Jack lay out the whole plans, likes it and agrees that this is a good idea. So she's all in. And so now they're back to working like a better working relationship. Jack goes to Phyllis, and Phyllis assumes he's there to make the deal with the pictures so that she won't release them. And he tells her, sorry, Summer knows Kyle's going to leave her, all that kind of stuff. So her plan blows up in her face, basically. And she's upset by it, of course, but, you know. So really, he now has Lauren kind of more on his side because it's Fenmore's, and really, the pitches aren't really gonna sink Jabot anyway. So, you know, especially if Kyle and Summer divorce, right? So that's kind of the whole intrigue with all that. So in the interim, Paul comes to see Ray and gives him back his job kind of on a conditional basis. He says he didn't want to fire him, but he did because he felt betrayed, and he really did something he shouldn't have done, really, with the whole breaking the women out of prison and setting up the whole thing to get JT to show up. And so he'll give him back his job if he's able to solve this one particular case. And that case is, of course, the attack on Lola, which we all know he already knows who did it. But, of course, he doesn't say that. Paul kind of alludes in the fact that it could be Mia because it was a woman. He knows that Abby, and he figures it wasn't Lola who was the target. He figured it was Abby because Lola was wearing Abby's coat that night. So he figures it was probably Mia because they had that argument earlier in the night that it was Mia who's actually going after Abby. And so Ray already knows this, so he's trying to cover, and he's saying, well, no, Mia wasn't. I know Mia had an alibi that night. She was with Arturo. And so he kind of basically spins this part of the truth, part of not, like part of a lie, that Mia and Arturo had an affair. And it was actually that night that they were together. So she was with Arturo that night. So Paul's like, oh, okay, you know, I hear you, you know, I understand. But, you know, kind of more or less get on it. And Ray asked Paul if there'd been any more information, and Paul says no. But he says, you know, I'll get right on it. It's kind of interesting that he'd give it to her brother, the victim's brother, which really would not happen in real life, but, you know, whatever. Suspend belief. So Paul leaves. And he tells Sharon late that he's reinstated and he has to figure out. Oh, no, he tells Mia, too, that he has to figure out the attacker. And Mia's like, oh, great, you know, they're going to arrest me. And he says, no, that I covered for you, but he's been trying to get a contact with Arturo, but Arturo's not returning his phone calls. So they need to get Arturo to kind of back her up that she was with him. Now, I would think Arturo's going to wonder why you're gonna want to say I was with Mia that night, because I don't believe he was. I think he was with Abby that night, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because remember they were sitting at the athletic club and that, and Lola had come, and that's why Abby gave her the coat. So, and people have seen Arturo with Abby, so I don't know if that's really going to work that well, but that's kind of the cover story they're trying to go with, that Mia was with Arturo. And Mia had gone there to try to get some money to help support her and the baby. And that's when he told her that it's conditional that he's back on the force. So we'll see. And he says to her that he's still not even sure that it's his baby. It could be Arturo's. So they haven't done like a DNA or whatever test as of yet. But of course, soaps, they'll probably get switched. So Victoria is in Vegas, and she's wondering what's going on with her dad. Her and Billy are kind of getting closer and all that sort of thing. And he comes up with an idea, or she does, because Brandon had said that he saw him in Vegas, like just not that long ago, with a high roller called Spider. And she's wondering what's going on, like what's up with this whole thing. So dad's not a gambler, so who is the Spider? And so Brandon comes up with an idea saying, Spider always goes to all these high roller private games. So he had set one up in another hotel room. And Billy says, now we're going to have it in hers because, Victoria says that. And she doesn't want Billy there because of his gambling problem. But he says, I'm not going to let you do this by yourself. So Brandon shows up. One other guy shows up. It's like a random guy. And Sinead from the last time Billy had fallen off the wagon shows up. So they play, and Victoria's asking about Spider to Brandon, and usually he doesn't miss games, so it's probably that maybe something else has come up, like another bigger game kind of thing, so he's there instead. So, and then so they play, and it comes down to like this big stakes kind of thing between Victoria and Sinead, and Victoria beats her, basically with Billy's help, really, because Billy's kind of sitting on the couch and you can see what Victoria has. So Victoria wins anyway. But no Spider and no Victor. So they leave, and Victoria's still wondering, like, what's going on with her dad? Because one, he wasn't really there during the whole trial. And two, when he was supposed to be in Dubai with Summer, when Summer was there, he never showed up. So, and there's never been any explanation about where he was. So they're wondering about all that. Victor, in the meantime, texts Victoria and says he's on a business trip. I think, I forget where they said he was. I want to say Sweden, but I don't think so. And she knows that's not true, because Brandon has seen him in Vegas, and she's wondering why he's lying. And he told Nikki he was going on yet another business trip too. So Brandon texts Victoria and says he just saw her dad with Spider at a bar, right within the last few minutes, and he sends her a picture. And there's Victor and some guy. And she asks Billy if she recognizes him, and he doesn't. They have no idea who Spider is, who this guy is. So Victoria wants to stay there and go to the bar and to search them and go to a couple of other casinos to talk to the pitmasters. And Billy's like, you know what? We're not going to find out anything here. Let's just go home. The kids want to see you. You've been gone too long. You just got out from jail and all that sort of thing. So let's just go home. So he finally convinces her to go home without the mystery being solved. So, but you kind of get the idea or the impression that Billy was having a bit of problems, and he kind of admits that to Victoria, that he just sat there at a high stakes game. And I mean, that's his addiction, is gambling. And she says, I knew you shouldn't have been there. She feels bad, but he's like, no, I'm okay. I wasn't going to leave you there by yourself. So he leaves Victoria alone. I'll be back later. and he calls somebody. You don't know who it is. You find out, though, it's Jack. He went back to the Abbott house and tells Jack that he was just in Vegas, and Jack kind of gets the wrong idea, but he's listening. And he says, that's part of addiction is relapsing. And Billy says, yeah, but I didn't relapse. I wanted to, but I didn't. And Jack, but he's really beating himself up over it. And Jack's trying to tell him that it's a good thing that you didn't. You admitted that you wanted to, but you called me. You came here to talk. That's a step in the right direction. It shows growth. It's like, don't be that hard on yourself for it, kind of thing. So that's basically when Kyle come home. So Billy leaves, and you find out later he goes to a meeting, a Gamblers Anonymous meeting. So he's looking after that, which is a good thing. Throughout the rest of the week, outside the big highlights, you see Nikki wondering where Victor is not wondering where he is, just that he'd gone off, and they're looking after the kids, the Victoria's kids, and Nick's there, and Nick kind of as a bebopping kind of way through the week in a way. He seems like he doesn't know what he wants to do, restless. It almost looks like sometimes he wants to go back to the underground. Other times he's that's past behind me. It's like he's kind of lost, and he's playing cards with Nikki and the kids, and and then he picks up some girl at I think it's the athletic club, and brings her home, and they make out and that, and then you get this montage of him working out and throwing darts by himself and watching TV, all that kind of stuff. He goes to Dark Horse and does some work overnight. So you're wondering what's going on there, kind of thing. But that's kind of interspersed throughout the week as well. So, but it was an interesting week. This is obviously not everything that's happened this week, but it's pretty much the main highlights, the main stories. Some of the stories kind of moved along a little bit. It's nice to see that Paul's back in the mix. But other than that, a lot of things, now there's more of a mystery with Victor and what's he doing, kind of thing. Like I said, I haven't watched Friday's episode, which will be Mondays, which probably will reveal more, but that's okay. We'll talk about that next week. But yeah, it was a pretty good week. A little bit slower than other weeks. It'll be going into May sweep soon, so they're gonna have to ramp up. I'm sure that this new mystery will take another year to solve. Hopefully not, but you never know. Stories, right, with soaps. Anyway, that's it for this week. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button so you know when I upload every Friday for the whole week of Young and the Restless. Recaps or full detailed episodes of what happened during the week. Take care, guys. See you next week. Bye.